Good afternoon, Mrs. Reynolds. I'm the reporter from the Walla Walla Evening Bulletin, Ellen Day, but everyone calls me Nellie.
I was expecting a man.
Well, I'm the first female journalist at the Bulletin. I suppose that makes me a pioneer of sorts, just like you.
Oh, I've heard of you. You were elected county superintendent of schools. You defeated that poor Mr. Morgan.
It was a close race. He was popular, but I made great progress with the schools. And you support education in this valley too, Mrs. Reynolds, including contributions to building the Young Men's Christian Association and the girls' dormitory at Whitman College, Reynolds Hall.
Yes, that's right.
You've accomplished so much. What does it feel like to be here today in this cabin where you lived so long ago?
Well, it makes me nostalgic, but it also makes me proud of all the accomplishments that I've made and all the hardships that I've overcome.
Do I remember correctly that yours was one of the region's earliest pioneer families and that you came to Oregon country in a wagon train?
Well, I was only 13 at the time, and my family, the Millicans, we came by wagon train, and it was led by the Applegate brothers and piloted by Dr. Marcus Whitman, finally arriving in 1843.
And your family stopped at the Whitman Mission, correct?
Correct.
What was it like meeting Narcissa Whitman?
I remember it vividly. Never will there be an angel in heaven as beautiful as that gracious woman was to me. She welcomed us and shook our hands, and we were dirty and bedraggled, and she was in a clean light blue dress with blonde hair and lovely eyes.
It's remarkable you met her before the tragedy at the mission. I understand shortly after you arrived in Oregon country, you first met your soon-to-be husband, Ransom Clark.
Yes, I was 13 at the time, and I married at 15. And we farmed, and we had twins after our first year of marriage. Sadly, though, one of our twins died, but Charles lived.
That must have been difficult losing your son so young. And farm work isn't easy. Were you successful?
We were good farmers, but for another source of income, we opened a hotel in Portland, and we took in boarders. Ransom went off prospecting for gold and left me to manage the hotel. I did all the cleaning, all the laundry, and raised our children.
What eventually brought you and your family here to start a new life in Walla Walla?
Ransom had been to Walla Walla, and he was impressed with the landscape. So he found an area of land near Yellowhawk Creek, and in 1855 he established a donation claim. But after a short absence of time due to Indian troubles, he came back to Walla Walla to prove up the land and to build a cabin.
So Ransom was traveling back and forth between Portland and Walla Walla.
He was, and when he finished the cabin, he came back to Portland to collect me, but he wasn't there very long when he contracted pneumonia, and sadly, he didn't live to come back to Walla Walla.
I am sorry for the loss of your husband, Mrs. Reynolds. My own husband, Mr. Jesse Day, passed in 1893, less than 4 years after we'd married. I'm impressed with your resilience, especially as you were so young. Given the circumstances, I think most women would choose to give up the land.
Well, I needed to see it first. I needed to come to Walla Walla, and so I came by wagon train. And when I got here, I saw the cabin, and it was nice, and the land was fertile. And I decided I needed to finalize the claim, and I would be the first female to finalize a claim in this area.
Were your family and friends in favor of you completing your husband's work here?
Many of my friends tried to dissuade me, but I was determined to take on the task. We went back to Portland, I had my baby, and I finalized the affairs of the hotel. And then the children and I decided to let it all go. And we moved back to Walla Walla. And it was hard on me those years. I did all the gardening, all the milking of cows, made the butter, and so on. I did everything but make money.
But once you were settled here, you found another chance for happiness. Would you tell me about meeting and marrying the distinguished Mr. Almos Reynolds?
Almos Reynolds purchased the property next to my claim, and he put up a wheat processing mill, and he needed someone to sew sacks for him. And that was something I could do to make a little bit of money. And working with Almos, we became better acquainted, and we had great respect for each other. He also was a bachelor, and I was a 29-year-old widow with 3 children. 2 of them were very young. And we decided to get married. And we got married right here in this very cabin.
Surely it was a timely venture to run a flour mill, given the increase in dryland wheat farming.
Yes, the gold had dried up in Idaho, but wheat was our gold here in Walla Walla, and our mills were quite successful. And Almos also got involved in banking and other civic duties. We had 2 sons together. They have both become quite successful, but I lost Almos in 1889. He was aged 81.
Since Jesse's passing, I've tried to stay busy, working with the county schools and now for the Bulletin. And I know you've stayed involved with the community too.
Yes, I've become involved with many organizations in our area. The YMCA is one of them. We needed a safe place for our young men in the community because we have so many saloons and gambling in the area. I donated half of what it took to build the YMCA. And I had little education myself, but I understood the importance for girls to get an education. So I donated a large sum, $6,000, to help build Reynolds Hall.
That's quite admirable. You've given so much back to Walla Walla.
It was important to me that this city develop as a place for children. Through all the turbulence in my life, I knew I had my children to care for. And I'm trying to build a future for them here in Walla Walla.
And what does that future look like, Mrs. Reynolds?
I'm gratified with the way Walla Walla has become. I walk down Main Street past its fine brick buildings and remember the little town of shacks and tents when I first arrived here. And I'm gratified to know that I was one of its pioneers.
Thank you so much for sharing your story with me, Mrs. Reynolds. What a pleasure it has been to talk to you today.
Goodbye, Nellie. I think I'll sit here a while longer and let the memories seep out of these old walls.